So I gotta rebuild all this. I'm stuck on an island, gotta rebuild all this. Just kidding. I'm trying to bust out that Greg Doucette stringer, but I need more upper pec. So anyway, if y'all are not aware, in the Noble Natty space, Bald Omni Man has issued a challenge to have other people within this space talk about the 10 exercises that they would do if they had to be stuck on an island, lose all their gains, and have to rebuild it all. And Faz Lifts has been gracious enough to invite me to participate in this challenge. So this is my top 10 exercises to build or rebuild my physique. And I also want to take this opportunity to do a couple things. First and foremost, I am mainly a power builder. So you could expect me to be like, oh, squat, bench, deadlift are going to be in this list. And you wouldn't be wrong, but you're also not right either. I do want to have that assumption that if you are going to use these exercises any type of way, that you are still going to use those exercises in your own program. But I do think that even without them, you're going to be making great gains otherwise. But the main goal with my top 10 list is that even with these exercises, because they are not the big three, can I still get a lot of carryover from it? So if strength is a consideration and you feel that with the other videos given at this current time that they just address only hypertrophy, but there's still that urge to throw around heavy weights on other compound movements, I think this list can be incredibly useful because not only will it build the muscles relevant to your strength, but it will still just make you a really big mother effer. So let's start with my list. Number one is pull-ups. In my personal opinion, the number one priority I have as far as being a power builder is to actually have a somewhat balanced physique. So what do I mean by that? You are trying to be both strength and size in one. You are trying to have the best of both worlds in some way. Now, obviously, you won't have the most of both worlds, but you're just trying to have the best of them. And an easy way to make sure that you are actually doing that is being able to do bodyweight exercises, specifically pull-ups. And as a spoiler, the second exercise on this list is dips. If you can do pull-ups and dips, that means you are strong enough to lift your body weight through space, that you are at a reasonable body fat percentage or have a decent muscle to fat ratio on your body. And obviously you might need to do some regressions as far as being able to build up to these exercises, such as inverted rows or push-ups. But generally speaking, I do think that calisthenics and their variations should be present in your program from beginning to end. There's a reason why if you look at guys like Bald Omni Man who are doing incredible feats with weighted pull-ups and weighted dips, same with Alpha Destiny, they also have an extensive base with calisthenics. And the lower body training is not as well rounded in calisthenics as it is with the upper body. So you should be doing your pull-ups and your dips as much as possible. Okay. The third exercise. So the first two are pull-ups and dips, in case it went over someone's head. Could have went over mine. The third exercise is the dumbbell row, the single arm dumbbell row. I was thinking about choosing the cable variation that I personally like, where I am actually situated behind the pad and posted up on that bench and really getting a deep stretch and then rowing. I really do like that variation of the row. However, I do think that the advantage that you can get from that variation, you can equally get with a dumbbell. The stretch is insane. The squeeze is insane. The amount of weight you can use, whether you're using it strict or with a cheat, is still going to be incredibly stimulative, and you are going to be getting a ton of benefits either way. And obviously, you can always take a step back, refine your form to get a more targeted stimulus. And of course, there are also ways where throwing some weight around is not always a bad thing. Yes, you are going to be doing more reps as a result of you having less rep quality, but it's a trade-off, and sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you should prioritize quality over quantity, and sometimes if you just need to break through a plateau, I have been guilty of doing the quantity approach and then refining the quality after the fact. So single arm dumbbell rows, incredibly viable, incredibly useful, and one of the best ways to build up the back. I do think that rowing has done the most to develop my back and everything like that. When I was starting lifting, so I did a lot of T-bar rows, but I just feel like the single arm dumbbell row does everything that that row variation in particular could have done, but a lot better. So I do think the single arm dumbbell row deserves its place here. The fourth best exercise, or my fourth top pick as far as rebuilding my physique, would be the behind the neck press. The reason why I would choose the behind the neck press is just because with other exercises that are going to come later into the list, I just think that this will help round out the entire upper body a bit more, just because it actually will target a little bit more of the side, rear, and upper back, as well as, of course, your delts, triceps, and arms, and everything of that nature. So having the behind the neck press present allows you to get more out of less weight, but you still have to train hard. It allows you to do a lot more volume, which is going to be a common theme with a lot of these exercises. These exercises, by sheer virtue of them not being the standard, most advantaged, most the lifts that you can just lift the most amount of weight on, because they're not those ones, you can actually put in a lot more volume on. And we know that volume is highly correlated with size. It's not the main driver. There's not one single main driver of hypertrophy. There are multiple factors that need to come together in order to have the best results. However, if I have the choice of exercises where I can only do so much work on because of how fatiguing they are, or if I could choose exercises where I can do a lot more work, I'm going to bias toward those exercises. What do my exercises selection up to this point have in common? They can be done more than other exercises of that same category. You can probably do more pull-ups than you could, or inverted rows than you could, like heavy barbell rows and dumbbell rows as well. You can do a lot more dips than you can bench press. But at the same time, because of how much volume you are allocating to dips, it's going to carry over. So same thing applies with behind the neck press. You get that added mass in the upper back, the rear delt, and side delts especially. And as a result, it just gives you more structure in place where you're going to demand it when you go back to your heavy compound lifts. Following that is the Pec Deck Reverse Fly. This is probably my favorite way to train the rear delts. I have nothing against face pulls. I have nothing against the dumbbell variation and other dumbbell variations. However, I just feel like, given how easy it is to just get into that starting position and really feel set up, you don't have to worry so much about your back angle. You don't have to worry so much about your legs somewhat contributing, because as you try to do the fly, you are kind of pushing through your feet a little bit, your back angle's shifting throughout the motion. You never really have to think about that when it comes to the Pec Deck Reverse Fly, because you're just locked in. You're right there, you grab the handles, and you go. That is as simple as it gets, and it is just so easy to put so much good quality work into that exercise, and it's just going to be one of the best ways that you can round out your delts. Rear delts are, we're very much aware of this, rear delts are just chronically undertrained in most lifters. However, when it comes to that V taper that people want, when it comes to just that overall width, thickness, and definition of the back, you have to isolate your rear delts just as much as you would try to grow your lats, your upper back, your traps, and your lower back as well. Rear delts are a very important part in completing that overall picture. Obviously, any pulling motion that you do will develop the rear delt, but at the same time, if your goal is to maximize hypertrophy, isolation is an important part. Something that you'll notice with any of these top 10 lists is going to be a prioritization of what muscles we think will create a more impressive physique. Now, maybe some of my peers who do make this top 10 video will kind of provide you with one lift per muscle group. I haven't watched everyone's yet. But for me, I think that when it comes to my exercise selection, it would just be putting mass in with the best selection possible, but also in the areas that matter the most. And for me, I have a huge preference for back work. I think that is where most of your volume should be going. You will never meet a small person with a you will never meet a small person who has a strong back. A strong back will make you huge, if anything, right? So You have to do your pull-ups, you have to do your rows, and you definitely have to work your rear delts. After that, I have the preacher curl. I will have to admit, when it comes to bicep training, it is where I am the most lazy and in need of help. Now, the reason why I recommend the preacher curl is more so because of what I've seen it do for other people. And when I say other people, I mean my clients in person as I train them. And I just see the difference that it produces, even in the span of a couple months of just dedicated work. When I saw that, I really thought to myself, holy crap, this is something I need to try. And I've been doing it for a couple weeks now, almost 2 months. And even I'm starting to notice some benefits from it. I wish I kept to the preacher curl much more. The thing is, I do not particularly enjoy curling. So when it comes to exercises that I do for it, I like exercises that have the least amount of mental buy-in, if that makes sense. I want to just kind of go in, get out, put in the work, and clock out. So when it comes to the preacher curl, whether you're doing it with a machine or if you're doing it with an easy bar, all of these things are top tier exercises for the bicep. And because you are kind of locked into position, all I have to think about is the quality of my work. And then after that, after I get in my sets and my reps, training close to failure, making sure to have a little bit of a pause in between each rep. So that way it's not, I'm not like just getting that stretch reflex or just cheating the weight up using momentum or anything of that nature, because you can do that even if you're posted up somewhere. You can still cheat. There's always a way to cheat in exercise, but really controlling the weight down, pausing, and then really straining to curl that weight back up. I have found the preacher curl to be extremely useful for myself, but also many of my clients who have more hypertrophy focused goals. Now, since we talked about the biceps, my favorite tricep exercise is the JM press. You can do this with a Smith machine. You can do this with a barbell. And I think if you just did it with an easy bar curl, it probably becomes more like a skull crusher. But honestly, some ways that you perform the JM press look more like a skull crusher. And then there are other ways that you can perform the JM press. That's why a lot of people have confusion about it, because as a exercise, there's multiple ways to perform it. And that aren't always considered a variation as far as who's doing it really. It's this person does a JM press this way, this person does a JM press this way, but for some reason it's still called a JM press. So when I'm talking about the JM press, I'm really just talking about bringing your wrist, excuse me, down this way, and then you kind of go back a little bit and press up. So I think that's more related to Matt Wenning, but I really love the way that Dave Tate really does it, which is just that first portion where you're almost doing a little bit more of a close grip bench, bringing your hand down here and just bringing your arm close together. I suck at explaining this exercise because it's just so weird, but it's more like a close grip bench with a little bit of a skull crusher action, and then you press out. So love the JM press. I think that's going to be one of the best ways that you can develop your tricep when it comes to all the other things that are involved in your program, because you're going to have other presses. As we've discussed, we have dips already in the program. We have behind the neck press. So the triceps, they're not being worked all that well. You won't be developing huge triceps as a result of you doing the behind the neck press. You can, it's possible, but if you want really big muscles, isolate that muscle. And as a result, to really round out that development, I will put in the JM press, because you can overload this movement. It has the most potential for overload. Yes, I do think something like a French press, a behind the neck or behind the head overhead tricep extension, these are all going to be great exercises because of the amount of tension and stimulation that they have on the muscle. They just target those muscles incredibly well. But remember, I'm a dirty power builder. Whereas I fully respect and understand the willingness to only do, like, have different exercises for different means. So let's say, for example, a deadlift wouldn't go on a bodybuilder's list because he could get more out of doing Romanian deadlifts and maybe a row variation, because a lot of people say that, oh, your deadlift will build your back and your glutes and hamstrings. He'd rather just separate those two. Do RDLs for glutes and hamstrings and then do a row for his back. For me, I'm a dirty power builder. I want some amount of carryover. And as a result, that's where the decision to put in a JM press over exercises like an overhead tricep extension has been made. That's where my thought process goes. So there are people who have done 405 for the JM press. What do you think their bench is like? What do you think their triceps are like? Yes, this is a strength argument. This is a statement about strength and whatnot. But like I said, I'm a dirty power builder. That's what we're putting in here. If you want big, juicy triceps and you want some strength, JM press is going to be an incredibly viable way to approach that. I don't think that carryover is a bad thing if strength is actually part of your goals. If strength is not part of your goal and you're worried about carryover, you are not being honest with your pursuit. And I do think that there are other conversations that need to be had other than exercise selection. So if you want carryover, want it for yourself, because it's okay to want to be strong. Next exercise, Smith machine hack squats. This one is one where, like, now that we're getting into the last three exercises, right? The top three, essentially. I think you know where I'm going with this. With the Smith machine hack squat, the reason why I chose the Smith machine hack squat over something like a legs press. Oh. Hey, Google. Stop playing my alarm. I woke up a bit early today, just for you guys. All right. But anyway, the reason why I chose the Smith machine hack squat is because when it comes to a lot of my lifters who I train in person, I have found that it's a lot easier for people to get full range of motion where they are just fully biasing the quad. They are able to get into those deeper positions much easier on a Smith machine hack squat than they can on a leg press. Why didn't I just choose a regular hack squat? Because not everyone has access to them. I have trained in so many different gyms and almost none of them, maybe two out of the many that I've trained at over the course of my life, only two of them have had an actual hack squat machine. So just because of availability, I chose the Smith machine version, but that doesn't mean availability makes it bad or makes it any less effective than a standard hack squat. If anything, they function very similarly, except you can do more with the Smith machine. I have been too harsh toward the Smith machine throughout my lifetime. You can do the JM press with the Smith machine, and it's going to be a great, phenomenal exercise. So the Smith machine should be part of your program if you are serious about having carryover, if you are serious about building muscle. There's nothing wrong with the Smith machine. It's all about how you use it, and it deserves a little bit more respect. Obviously, if you are trying to claim that you bench 315 but you're using a Smith machine, no. I think the Smith machine is more so a tool for hypertrophy than it is for strength. But that being said, with Smith machine hack squats, you can do so much volume, so much quality volume through a huge range of motion. So much of the balance and stability is taken care of as a result of the fixed uprights of the Smith machine. And all you have to worry about is your body positioning, so that way you can get into those deep positions. So there's a lot less thinking because the movement itself is guided and all the tension is being put onto the quads when done properly. It is my favorite way to get in a lot of volume for squats, other than squatting itself, of course. Next exercise is going to be a stiff leg deadlift. Reason why I didn't choose the RDL, even though I do think that the RDL probably is going to do a bit better for you as far as a hypertrophy tool, is because when it comes to stiff leg deadlift, and there's a stiff leg deadlift and a Romanian deadlift, essentially they're the same exercise. How you perform them is very similar. And some people will say that the only difference is when the stiff leg deadlift starts on the floor, whereas an RDL starts from the top and it doesn't touch the floor. Kind of arbitrary, not completely accurate, not completely inaccurate. But when I'm talking about it in the context of this video, I do mean you are starting from a dead stop position on the floor. You are hinging, pushing your butt as far back as you possibly can, feeling a full stretch of the hamstrings, and then you are going to have a neutral flat lower back, and then you are going to bring that weight up. Reason why I like this exercise over the RDL is because I'm a power builder. I want strength. If you have that strength element, you want your exercises that are going to build muscle but also build strength, the stiff leg deadlift is just going to be a little bit better than an RDL. An RDL is going to be incredibly useful for that same reason, just to a very marginal lesser degree. It's all a game of inches. The reason why the stiff leg deadlift has a little bit more carryover is just because of that specificity of pulling from the floor. There's likely more that I'm probably missing because I just woke up. But as far as the specificity component, that is what's included with a stiff leg deadlift over a standard RDL where the weight does not start or end in that dead stop position on the floor. And the last exercise. This one is more of a regret, I guess you could say, or a area of missed opportunity, and that is the incline barbell bench press. I did not prioritize the incline barbell bench press when I started lifting. For me, it was all about the flat bench. I did not care what someone could do on the incline bench because it was not the flat bench. I thought you were cheating yourself because you were doing the incline over the flat bench. I was like, if you hit 315 on an incline, I thought you were cheating, and like when you went on the flat, like you'd be so weak, and like I would puff up my chest like, oh, I'm so much better than you. But when I did puff up my chest and looked at over at theirs puffing up theirs, I'm like, damn. Like, there's a little bit more of an aesthetic that you can desire or appreciate as a result of doing the incline. So as a result, now and as much as possible, I'm trying to correct that weakness and do more incline bench pressing. I do think that when you have a program consisting of dips and overhead presses and incline presses, I think you are just going to have a much broader shelf. And as a result, it's going to have this added appearance of just having, like, you know, body armor on all the time, or like, you know, football pads on all the time, where you just are really broad up top. I do think that the flat barbell bench press is incredibly useful for doing that as well. However, I just do think that when it comes to most people trying to build up that upper body shelf, you are going to be better off doing an incline variation. It was a little bit difficult choosing between, let's say, incline dumbbell bench, close grip bench, or even flat dumbbell bench pressing. The reason why I closed the incline is because of the loadability. When it comes to the incline barbell bench press, there's a couple benefits that you're getting out of it. One is not only are you targeting the upper pec a bit more than you would on a flat bench if done properly, you are also going to be you're able to load the exercise a lot more. It has, because it's perfectly in between a flat and an overhead press, you're getting benefits of strength on both exercises, because the volume that you do on an incline barbell bench press can help you with your performance on a standard overhead press or on a flat barbell bench press. And I think that's about it. Honestly, like, you are getting multiple movements in one. You are targeting a specific part of the muscle that will just make you appear more broad and more wide. So I think that's really the benefit here. And you can do more volume than you could on the flat barbell bench, quite honestly. I just find that I can do so much more on an incline than I can on the flat. That may or may not apply to you, but I think it's a consideration worth taking. So that's my list. Number 1, pull-ups. Number 2, dips. Number 3, single arm dumbbell row. Number 4, behind the neck press. Number 5, pec deck reverse fly. Number 6, preacher curl. Number 7, JM press. Number 8, Smith machine hack squats. Number 9, stiff leg deadlift. And number 10, incline barbell bench. If you do these exercises, I do think that you will build an incredibly impressive physique, but not only will you be big, you will have a lot of strength in all the right places that you can then leverage into squats, benches, and deadlift when you decide to do more focused work for specifically strength. So this might be a cheating thing. This might not be the most useful for hypertrophy because I took carryover into consideration. But I think that if you want a fully complete physique that is both big and strong, these exercises should be present in addition to all your other main compound exercises. So, but if all you care about is general strength and hypertrophy, these are all great exercises. So I hope this was incredibly useful for you. Thank you so much for watching and enjoying my rambling. I rambled a bit more than I thought. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.